Hi, and welcome to this tutorial. In our climate risk world, we're often confronted with the confusion arising from two key terms. What should we be saying? Risk tolerance or risk appetite? Folks tend to use these terms interchangeably. And it doesn't seem to be such a big deal. But I'm often asked, what's the difference? And why should I even care? These are great questions. So I did a bit of digging around and some literature review. What do other risk specialists report in the literature? While I was hoping to gain more clarity, I found a broad field. This is actually quite a complex question. In this tutorial, I dive deeper into this issue and hopefully arrive at clear guidance for those of us working in climate risk assessment and treatment. Let's get started. First, let's consider risk tolerance. I started with a simple Google search. What do other specialists say about risk tolerance? I found a ton of different definitions. Some were conversational, leaning on the way we might use the word tolerance in day-to-day speech, sort of classic Webster or Oxford Dictionary definitions. Meanwhile, others were much more technical, drawing from the small nuances in meaning that support specific risk management applications. The definition of risk tolerance depends a lot on the risk the specialist is considering. There is no clear-cut answer. There is no consensus. And this lack of consensus can create gaps in our understanding, affecting our risk analysis. When we're not on the same page, it's easy for problems to arise. So what are these different definitions? Our literature review uncovered a wide spectrum of different definitions for risk tolerance. Here are a few examples. The United States Securities Exchange Commission defines tolerance as an investor's ability and willingness to lose some or all of an investment in exchange for greater potential return. In a similar vein, Investopedia says tolerance is the degree of uncertainty and financial loss that an investor is willing to take on an investment in exchange for possible higher return. The Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization cites tolerance as the willingness to take risk and handle uncertainty. And Science Direct refers to tolerance as the level of risk one is willing to accept. All of these definitions sound a lot like the standard ISO 31000 definitions for risk appetite. ISO offers a distinctly different definition for risk tolerance. Meanwhile, the Information Systems Audit and Control Association refers to tolerance as the acceptable deviation from the level set by risk appetite and business objectives. We can see from this short analysis that definitions for risk tolerance cover a wide field, and there are inconsistencies in the way the concept may be applied by different risk professionals. To address this difficulty, we lean on the ISO 31000 definitions. These definitions are peer-reviewed by a panel of international risk experts and are widely recognized. According to ISO, risk tolerance is readiness to bear risk after risk treatment in order to achieve objectives. The ISO definitions provide a clear distinction between risk tolerance and risk appetite. By doing so, they offer us clear metrics to effectively manage risk and provide guidance to risk treatment activities. The definitions are consistent and used around the world. So how do we define risk appetite? The lay of the land for risk appetite is far less confusing. Among risk specialists who use this approach, the definition is very consistent, and it agrees with the ISO 31000 definition. Risk appetite is defined as the amount of risk and type of risk we will accept in pursuit of our objectives. The dual nature of this definition can often be overlooked. It covers both the quantity and also the sort of risk we may accept. We now have clear definitions for risk appetite and risk tolerance. This all begs the question, what does this mean for us as climate risk practitioners? Well, appetite defines the absolute limit and composition of the risk we will accept. This is the total of all risks in aggregate. This forms the envelope within which we operate our risk management activities. No matter what we do, in aggregate, our risk should never exceed this appetite. At least not without due consideration and active decision-making. Meanwhile, tolerance defines acceptable risk within that envelope. We can trade off between different risk management choices while maintaining an overall risk portfolio that remains inside our comfort zone. The two concepts work together to establish a mechanism to evaluate and manage risk. We use the ISO 31000 definitions because the way they link offers useful insight on how we set up and manage our climate risk management systems. Appetite captures all the risks we can accept, the categories of risks we feel okay to manage, and overall how much risk we will bear. Tolerance gives us a window on how much risk we will accept after we've done work to reduce unacceptable risks, the residual risk. These are different ideas, but they're strongly linked. Tolerance refers to the individual pieces of risk we will accept, and appetite to the total of all risks we will take on. This linkage provides a logical mechanism that supports effective risk treatment work. But I can hear folks saying, that's fine, but it's pretty academic. Why should I care? What difference does it make to my day-to-day work? First, let's consider risk appetite. Appetite allows us to answer a fundamental question. Why am I doing this climate risk assessment? This helps us move from I don't know to I have clear objectives. When we do the hard work to establish a risk appetite, we are creating clarity. We know what risks we will accept and just how much of them we're willing to bear. This sets forth our objectives and establishes clear metrics we can use to execute meaningful assessments. Next, risk tolerance. Once we've defined our appetite, understanding risk tolerance is almost intuitive. Appetite and tolerance work together to establish a framework to guide all of our work. They establish concrete criteria. Within this framework, we can now conduct the give and take of day-to-day risk management. We can look at our risk treatment options, balance the residual risks we will accept based on our understanding of tolerance, all the while maintaining an overall risk portfolio that fits within our established risk appetite. Which brings me back to why we should care. When we have clear definitions for risk appetite and risk tolerance, we create a roadmap. The map helps us wend our way through the mess and sort out the confusion. This provides an unobstructed path forward in our climate risk management work.